It. My head was hurting. It was, it was definitely a lot.
They didn't show us proof that it was safe to work there. They just told us just work right through it.
With the union saying that some workers complained of irritated throats and burning eyes, as well as one employee going to the ER after their shift. Plus, even though the fire department reportedly responded to a fire outside the warehouse, it's not clear whether they actually inspected damage inside. So that night, we saw many employees refusing to work, with dozens of them crowding in the break room and around 100 staging a spontaneous march through the warehouse demanding to be sent home with pay. But instead, Amazon has now suspended a group of those who participated, though reports on the exact number has changed. At first, it was at least a couple dozen, then it was 50. Now the union says management is circulating that as many as 80 were suspended. And this is all happening while the company still has not formally recognized the union, and contract negotiations have been stalled for months as it appeals the union election from several months ago. And then South Korea nearly blew a hole in one of their own cities. This reportedly after North Korea also flew another missile over northern Japan yesterday morning. Now, fortunately, that missile landed nearly 3,200 kilometers to the east in the ocean. But also, I think it's safe to say everyone would feel better if, no missiles were flown over their homes. Especially because at the time, they didn't really know the details and were just getting warnings to take cover. Understandably, Japan's pissed, with Japan's defense minister telling reporters, North Korea's recent series of actions, including its persistent and escalating launches, threaten the peace and security of the region and the globe. And if you're having a feeling of deja vu, that's because an almost identical situation happened back in 2017. At that time, North Korean missile tests were the news meta, getting coverage nearly every time they launched, but also now, the world's just crazier. Because after a lull of a few years, North Korea has actually heavily amped up missile testing with little news coverage. You probably don't know this. Since September 25th, it has launched at least 8 missiles. And just like the last time a North Korean missile flew over Japan, it is believed that the model is North Korea's largest nuclear-capable missile, with the country having slowly tested the missile's capabilities, and its 4,600-kilometer flight yesterday morning was the longest a North Korean missile has ever gone. And as far as why suddenly start up tests again, it could be in response to joint military exercises between Japan, South Korea, and the US, or it could just be that North Korea wants to be back on the world stage in an effort to get some kind of concession, where the country is believed to have been hit especially hard by horrible weather alongside COVID-19. But regardless of the reason, the US and South Korea condemned yesterday's test and continued their own exercises, including a reprisal live fire drill. But as I mentioned, things went terribly wrong, and according to a Joint Chiefs of Staff official, the missile malfunctioned and fell soon after it launched, crashing into an Air Force base of a nearby city, with the explosion and fire causing citizens to panic and assume it was an attack, only made worse by the delayed response of government officials. Though hours later, the South Korean military did acknowledge the malfunction and responded to the alarm raised online in videos of the fire outside the city. And luckily, at least physically, there were no injuries reported, which is, I guess, the most positive thing about this story. It served as a very shitty alarm clock. And then, whenever I take the dogs to the beach, I can't tell you how happy I am when I grab the right shoes, because it's so sandy and wet from chasing the kids and the dogs in and out of the rising tide. And thanks to today's fantastic sponsor, Vessi, my feet stay dry. That's why they're my go-to is for the gym, running errands, vacationing, going to the beach, because Vessis are built for everyday life and perfect for all seasons because they actually keep your feet warm and dry through the rain and sandproof. Did I mention that? That's rhetorical. My memory's not that bad, but it is bad. But anyway, I'm talking 100% waterproof and snowproof sneakers that are incredibly comfortable, breathable, and Vessis are great for the whole family. They fit like a sock so you barely notice you're wearing them, and their grip is designed for all weather, whether you're going hiking in the city or caught in a storm. These are stylish and highly functional sneakers, so make Vessis your go-to by-the-door shoe, and go to Vessi.com/DeFranco to get $25 off each pair of adult Vessi shoes. Trust me, you need a pair of Vessis. And then, today I wanted to revisit the situation in Puerto Rico and talk about Act 22. Last week we talked about it, as well as Bad Bunny's music video raising awareness about it. It's the former name of a tax program that encourages high-earning individual investors to move to Puerto Rico, where, in return for moving to the island, these individuals get to dodge most federal taxes, especially things like capital gains and short-term gains, which directly affect the way most rich people make their money. Also, so there's no confusion, I say former name because Act 22 and other related acts all had their names changed in 2020, but I'll also continue calling them by their old names because everyone else does. And its proponents and the government claim that it'll bring people with capital to the island to stimulate the economy and take advantage of other tax programs like Act 20 that encourage them to build businesses on the island that export goods and services for a token tax rate. However, both of these are extremely controversial with locals. First, they only apply to people coming to the island and not people already living there, so right off the bat, it excludes nearly every Puerto Rican. And this influx of wealthy individuals has unsurprisingly been linked to home prices in many of the island's biggest cities, skyrocketing, pricing out locals. Not only because this group is buying properties for themselves, but often because they're buying tourist rentals and taking them off the market. Also, just to get my biases out of the way, I am personally against Act 22 and its related incentives. That's also not just words, that's backed up by my dollars, right? I run several successful businesses, and in one, I have a partner who wanted to move the company to Puerto Rico, and I immediately said no. It is legal, yes, but it feels wrong to me. And hey, so many of you know me. I try to always say I am completely open to being proven wrong if, you know, in 5 or 10 years, the numbers come back and it turns out these acts are a great idea in the long term. But they have been around for a while and the results have been mixed at best. You know, many of the over 3,000 people who have moved there are despised by most of the locals, with the face of that in our space being Logan Paul. As we talked about on the show last week, he received a ton of critical coverage with Hurricane Fiona. It hit, and afterwards you had people saying, what the fuck are you doing? Hurricane Fiona hit, you took advantage of the place, and now you do nothing. And I also hadn't seen anything to the contrary, but hours after last week's video went up, I had a few people start sending me photos of Logan Paul going door to door after Fiona giving people supplies. And I wondered, like, how did we not see this? But then I realized it wasn't posted to his account. It was posted by someone that was around him with a tiny fraction of his followers, and so I was immediately intrigued. What exactly is he doing there? Why is there more we don't know about what he's doing? So in the interest of fair reporting, I reached out to Logan. I wanted to see if he would talk with me, with the general idea being, hey, this is a platform where we had critical coverage of you. I want to let you have your side and open the floor to you, and then we'll have a conversation. Or then the people, they get to be the judge and jury. And so that's exactly what we did. And so the only thing that I ask is, before you share your opinion on this, watch the whole thing. Because of course I'd love to know your thoughts on the whole situation, but Logan even asks you guys specific questions.
I want to start by saying I appreciate you giving me this platform. I did see your video. I did see the thumbnail. Whoever edited that is a savage. They did graffiti on my face while I was.
They have local family, so they said they were more than happy to.
I feel like that's true. Is that true?
It's very true.
That's so funny. Okay, that makes so much sense. Okay, so I did see your video, and I actually drafted up, as I told you, a message that I was going to send you on Twitter, because Philip, I've been a fan of you, dude, since I was in high school, like forever, and I've known you to be particularly partial in most cases. I like your journalism online, and in this specific scenario, I don't feel like I was represented in a way that portrays like what I'm doing on this island, what is going on here, because as I told you, I don't find it necessary to parade my positive pursuits on the island, right? When I went to go help out after Maria, and by the way, I'm only saying this because I was invited on the show to say this. You wouldn't hear about it from me, but I do see this narrative developing in Puerto Rico that does have an anti-foreigner sentiment, and I actually understand it, and we can get into it, and I'm more than happy to. But I love this island. It is incredibly beautiful. I call it my home now. This is a house I just bought. I fully live here, and I want to help out where I can. So yeah, after Maria, we got boots on the ground, delivered aid to an area that was affected by the hurricane, and you know, among various other things that we're doing on this island, and donations included. We're doing what we can to help, and I want to do more as well. And truthfully, I should be doing more. But I've been here a year and a half, and you'll hear me say this again and again, because and by the way, when I say we, which I'm sure you hear me say, I'm referring to my brother and I, because we moved here together, and people often conflate us, and so our efforts are often joint efforts. And you know, I could sit here, Phil, and get into the things that we've been doing on this island, but I need to make it clear that that's not entirely what I'm here to do, and that's not why we do the things that we do on this island.
So, I guess that's the thing, though, is if we don't talk about any sort of specifics, people are gonna kind of say that it's. I mean, I saw you come in. You're like today. You're just being you. You don't. It doesn't feel like you have anyone like around you telling you like this is a whatever like chat between us. But I feel like people are. No, I know. Thank you for proving it. No, but I feel like people are going to ask for specifics in relation, because there has been this influx. Okay, go for it.
Yeah. No, I'm more than happy to tell you. So just to name a few, I recently donated $25K to Haye Salud. It's a grassroots feminist organization that is doing great things in Puerto Rico, and specifically they were also helping with Maria. Jake and I refurbished multiple boxing gyms in Puerto Rico, $50K each, one in La Perla, one currently being refurbished in Dorado, Puerto Rico. Again, boots on the ground, Jake's team and my team helping out separately, giving out aid, giving out relief, and because you know, this is our home, this is our island, and a lot of the Act 20s do get a bad rep, and I again totally get it, because in any industry where there's money to be made, there are going to be vultures, there are going to be bad actors. However, I think that it's easy to point at me, and it's easy to point at Jake and label us as the figureheads. We've been here a year and a half. We've renovated 2 boxing gyms. We've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars. Jake put on Amanda Serrano, a local Puerto Rican boxer who was making $10,000 a fight and is now making millions under his promotional company. And she just bought a big house in Puerto Rico. And again, we moved here typically for training, so a lot of the things you'll hear me talk about are boxing training and boxing centric because it is a little bit more organic to us. But I am on this show because I have been seeing this narrative develop, and I want to make it clear that I am an ally, or would like to be considered an ally. And I'm okay if that doesn't happen immediately. Like with anything in my career, I'm not often given the olive branch right away. I have to earn it. And I'm more than happy to do so and put in the work and have my actions prove the words that are coming out of my mouth. But when I do the things, I'm not posting them on social media. You're finding the picture. And I got lucky that in the last episode, I had people reach out to you and show you what I was doing, because truthfully, again, I saw it and it hurts, dude, because like I said, I love this island. And I am well aware of the opportunity that has been granted to me for living here. And I want to create a symbiotic relationship between me, the people, the land, and the prospects that are here in Puerto Rico for a very long time. And I'll continue to do so no matter how many people, say what they want about vulture, like the nature, parasitic nature of me being here, because I'm unaffected, and I believe if I continue to do good, it will show.
And so I guess the question is going to be like, what are you saving versus what are you giving? It's all legal, right? So like what you're doing isn't like, it's something that was put into place to bring in people like yourself. But like people are going to say, okay, well, what have you saved in taxes versus what are you doing locally? Because when you build a, over $10 million house and more people are flocking, while this is, the situation and is the case, it's potentially pricing out locals. So I guess, what would you say to what you're saving versus what you're giving? Like that critique.
Sure. So help me understand. I completely get that critique, and help me understand what the level is of how. Let's talk about quantity. What is the level of help that I need to give where it is sufficient to match the opportunity, the tax opportunity I've been given here? I don't know the answer. That feels like, I honestly, I can't say. That's not up to me to decide. I did not create the anti-foreigner sentiment on the island, but I'm here to remedy in any way that I can. Like, how can I help, right? And I feel like instead of the finger being pointed at us, ask like, what would locals like to see more of? How can I aid? And again, I completely understand it. But Act 2022 is there's 3,000 plus Act 20s on the island. If you assume that each of them makes $1 million, and many of them make much more, that's $3 billion. 4% tax on that is $120 million. I don't know where that money goes. I don't have a say where that money goes. That is the Puerto Rican government. I want better roads too. I want power when a hurricane hits. I want better healthcare. And like in any industry that I enter or involve myself into, I want to be weaponized for good. I am an ally, and I'll continue repeating that because I have no problem saying that. And I feel strongly. That's why I'm on the show today, because I do need to kind of stick in the spokes of this anti-foreigners, not even anti-foreigner. I get that. Anti-Logan Paul, anti-Jake Paul. Like, it does hurt.
I really would love to try and get back to, I mean, like, if the shoe was on the other foot, right? You're living there. All of a sudden, these people come in, they're taking advantage. What would you say you think that the fair share would be of the give and take?
Phil, this is a really hard question to answer because with the give, what's the metric that you'd want to use here? Is it hours of my time, boots on the ground, helping in situations like Maria? Is it the money that I'm making? Is it my ideation and ways to make sure that the government is doing the right things? Do you want me to lobby? Like, again, it's a bit harder of a question to answer.
I think most people would just kind of make it dollars, right? Logan Paul going door to door isn't going to do much. You could be doing, I mean, you know how valuable your time is, versus like dollars for community. I feel like that's probably, at least based off of the few conversations that I've had, I would personally love to see, like, it's great having you on here, but I mean, I would really love to see like you talk to someone like that that's raised a lot of awareness on this, like Bianca Growlo. I might be mispronouncing her name. I remember seeing her from TikTok and then in the Bad Bunny music video and documentary. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I would love if this conversation, like, I forget if I even said it to you. In my head, I was like, I don't want this to be some sort of weird question where I'm like just holding you to the fire. And I want this to be something that can be a stepping stone to something that is beneficial for locals, whether it be just initially the small thing of anytime we talk about Puerto Rico, you know, talking about the charities and how to help people on the ground. But the situation is what it is there. Y'all are there. They are there. What do you, I mean, what's, I don't know. I'd love for you to have the conversation, and then what would you love to see happen from here?
I would love to get external